Maya Chin stood at the viewport of the transport shuttle and watched the moon grow larger. Keth 4 was gray and cold, covered in sharp mountains and deep valleys. Somewhere down there was the Valorian Military Academy, the most famous training school in the entire Galactic Compact, and somehow she had been chosen to attend. She was 16 years old. She was 5 feet 4 inches tall. She weighed 120 pounds. By human standards, she was average. By galactic standards, she was tiny. The shuttle began its descent, and Maya pressed her hand against the cold glass. She thought about her mother's face at the spaceport, trying so hard to be brave. She thought about her little brother Ethan, only 12 years old and already fighting a sickness that made each day a battle. He had hugged her so tight before she left. "You're going to be amazing," he had whispered. "Show them what humans can do." Maya had promised she would make him proud. The shuttle landed with a gentle bump. The door opened, and cold air rushed in. Maya picked up her single bag and walked down the ramp into her new life. The academy was enormous. Great stone buildings rose toward the gray sky, connected by covered walkways and open courtyards. Hundreds of cadets moved between structures, most of them species Maya had only seen in pictures. There were tall Valorians with their silver skin and 4 arms. There were massive Krellians covered in thick scales. There were dozens of others she could not name. And then there was her, one small human girl standing alone on the landing pad. A Valorian officer approached. He was tall and thin, with the formal uniform of academy staff. His face showed no emotion as he looked down at her. "You are the human exchange student," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. Maya Chen. Follow me." He turned and walked away without another word. Maya hurried to keep up with his long stride. They passed through courtyards and corridors, and everywhere they went, aliens stopped to stare. Maya heard whispers in languages she did not understand, but the tone was clear enough. Surprise, confusion, disgust. They entered a large hall filled with hundreds of cadets sitting in rows. At the front stood a stage where several officers waited. Maya's guide led her to an empty seat at the very back corner of the room, far from anyone else. "The opening assembly will begin shortly," he said, and then he was gone. Maya sat alone. The cadets around her kept their distance, leaving empty seats on all sides like she carried some disease. She kept her eyes forward and her hands folded in her lap. She had expected this. Earth's diplomatic corps had prepared her for it. Humanity was new to the galactic community, and not everyone was happy about their arrival. A loud tone silenced the hall. The cadets stood as one, and Maya quickly followed. A Valorian woman walked onto the stage. She was older than the others, with medals covering her chest and scars crossing her face. This was Commandant Thesara, the leader of the academy. "Welcome to a new year at the Valorian Military Academy," Thesara said. Her voice carried easily through the hall. "You have been chosen from thousands of applicants across the compact. You represent the finest young warriors of your species. Here you will be tested. You will be pushed beyond what you believe possible, and you will emerge as officers worthy of protecting our civilization." She paused and her eyes swept across the room until they found Maya. "This year, we welcome a historic addition. For the first time, a human has been accepted into our exchange program, Cadet Maya Chen of Earth." Every head in the hall turned to look at her. Maya felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes. She stood straighter and kept her face calm. "The Compact believes in unity through understanding," Thesara continued. "Cadet Chen will train alongside you, learn from you, and represent her species with honor. I expect you all to treat her with the respect due to any fellow cadet." Maya saw doubt on many faces. She saw hostility on others, but she also saw a few who looked curious, even interested. A young Valorian with kind eyes gave her a small nod. Maya remembered that moment. It was the first kindness she received at the academy. After the assembly, a different officer came for her. He was Krellian, broad and powerful, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that held no warmth. He introduced himself as Senior Instructor Vorath. "You have been assigned to my training group," he said. "I will be responsible for your education during your time here." "Thank you, sir. I'm honored to learn from you." Vorath's eyes narrowed. "Honor has nothing to do with it. Commandant Thesara believes this exchange program will improve relations with your species. I believe it is a waste of resources, but I follow orders. He leaned closer, and his voice dropped. I will not lower my standards for you, human. If you cannot keep up, you will fail. If you fail, you will be sent home. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Good, follow me. He led her to a barracks building separate from the main dormitories. The room inside was small and bare. A single bed, a small desk, a storage locker. No windows. The walls were thick stone that blocked all sound from outside. You will stay here, Vorath said. Training begins tomorrow at dawn. Do not be late. He left without another word. Maya heard the door lock behind him. She sat on the hard bed and looked around her tiny room. She was alone, completely alone, light years from home, surrounded by people who did not want her here. For a moment, she felt tears building behind her eyes. Then she thought of Ethan. She thought of his smile when she told him about the academy. She thought of his faith in her. She wiped her eyes and began to unpack. The next morning, Maya arrived at the training field before dawn. Vorath was already there, along with a dozen other cadets from various species. They were all larger than her. They were all stronger, and they all looked at her with contempt. Today we assess baseline capabilities, Vorath announced. Physical strength, speed, endurance, combat reflexes. He looked at Maya. All cadets will be tested against standard parameters for their species. The test began. Maya watched the other cadets perform incredible feats. A Krellian lifted weights that would crush a human. A Valorian ran speed courses faster than her eyes could follow. A creature covered in fur climbed walls with impossible agility. Then it was Maya's turn. The weights were too heavy. The course was too fast. The obstacles were designed for bodies 3 times her size. She failed every test, and Vorath made sure everyone saw. This is what Earth sends us, he said to the watching cadets. This is what Commandant Thessera calls a worthy exchange, a creature that cannot lift standard training weights, a species from a world so gentle they never needed to evolve real strength. Some cadets laughed. Others looked uncomfortable. Maya stood in silence, sweat dripping down her face, her muscles burning from effort. Perhaps we should adjust the parameters, Vorath continued, his voice dripping with false concern. Lower the standards so our human guests can feel included. That won't be necessary, sir. Maya's voice was quiet but clear. I'm willing to train to your standards. Vorath's eyes flashed with something cold. Very well, then you will train harder than anyone else. Report to Training Room 7 at midnight tonight. We will begin your specialized instruction. That night, Maya found her way to Training Room 7. It was deep underground, far from the main facilities. Inside, Vorath waited with 2 assistant instructors, both Krellians like him. Welcome to your first real lesson, Vorath said. Here we will see what humans are truly made of. The environmental controls in the room were wrong. Maya felt it immediately. The temperature was dropping fast, already colder than anything humans were meant to endure. The oxygen felt thin. The gravity felt heavier. This is a standard survival chamber, Vorath said. Cadets from proper species train here regularly. You will remain inside until dawn. Sir, humans cannot survive these conditions for... You said you were willing to train to our standards. Vorath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Was that a lie? Maya looked at the door. She looked at the 3 instructors blocking her path. She understood now. This was not training. This was meant to break her. She walked to the center of the room and sat down on the cold floor. She closed her eyes and began to control her breathing, just like her grandmother had taught her years ago. Slow and steady. Conserve energy. Survive. Impressive, Vorath said. Let us see how long that lasts. The door closed. The lights went out, and Maya began her long night alone in the dark and cold. When dawn came and the door finally opened, Maya was still sitting in the same position. She was pale. She was shaking, but she was alive. Vorath said nothing. He simply assigned her to regular training, then added another midnight session for the following night, and the night after that, and the night after that. 3 weeks into her time at the academy, Maya Chen had not slept more than 2 hours at a time. She had lost weight she could not afford to lose. Her body was covered in bruises from training accidents that seemed to happen only to her. But she never complained. She never reported what was happening. She simply endured day after day, night after night, because somewhere back on Earth, a sick little boy was waiting for his sister to make him proud, and Maya Chen refused to give up. 6 weeks had passed since Maya Chen arrived at the Valorian Military Academy. 6 weeks of cold rooms and heavy gravity. 6 weeks of training designed to destroy her. 6 weeks of proving that she would not break. Her body had changed. She had lost the softness of a normal teenager. Her muscles were hard and lean, shaped by constant strain. Her eyes had grown darker, carrying shadows that should not belong to someone so young, but she was still standing. Every morning she woke up before dawn. Every night she survived whatever Vorath had planned for her, and every day she refused to quit. The other cadets had noticed. Rin was a young Valorian with silver skin and curious eyes. Unlike most of her kind, she did not look at Maya with disgust. She looked at her with something closer to wonder. "You should not be alive," Rin said one day, sitting next to Maya in the meal hall. Maya looked up from her small portion of food. The nutrition packs given to her were measured for a species half her size, never quite enough to replace what she burned. "Excuse me? I have watched you." Rin kept her voice low, aware of the other cadets around them. The environmental chamber, the extended gravity exercises, the combat simulations against armed opponents. These are not standard training. They are designed to kill. They are challenging, Maya admitted carefully. They are abuse. Rin's 4 hands curled into fists. "Vorath hates your kind. Everyone knows this. He speaks against humans in every briefing. He says your species is a disease that will weaken the compact." Maya continued eating. She did not react to the information, though her stomach tightened around the food. "Why do you not report him?" Rin asked. "Would anyone believe me?" The question hung between them. They both knew the answer. Rin was silent for a moment. Then she reached across the table and touched Maya's arm. It was a gesture of friendship among Valorians, and it meant more than words could express. "I believe you," Rin said quietly. "I see what he is doing, and I think you are the bravest person I have ever met." For the first time in weeks, Maya felt something warm in her chest. It was small, just a flicker, but it was enough to keep her going. That night she called home. Ethan's face appeared on the screen, thin and pale but smiling. His illness had gotten worse since she left. The treatments were expensive, which was part of why she had accepted the academy position. The diplomatic corps paid well, and her family needed the money. "Maya," his voice was weak but happy. "How is the famous academy?" "It's incredible," she lied. "I'm learning so much. Are you making friends?" She thought of Rin. "One. Maybe. Tell me about the aliens. Are they as scary as they look in the videos?" Maya smiled, and this time it was real. "Some of them are actually pretty nice. There is this one Valorian girl who has 4 arms. She can write and eat and wave at the same time." Ethan laughed, and the sound made Maya's heart ache. She missed him so much. She missed her mother. She missed her home. "I saw your evaluation report," Ethan said, growing serious. "Mom tried to hide it, but I found it on her pad. They said you were performing below expectations." Maya's smile faded. "Training is harder than I thought." "The report said you were weak." Ethan's eyes burned with something fierce. "They called humans a primitive species. They said we do not belong in galactic military structures." "Ethan, they are wrong." His voice cracked with emotion. "You are the strongest person I know, Maya. When I was in the hospital last year, you stayed with me every night. You never slept. You never complained. You just held my hand and told me everything would be okay." Maya felt tears building behind her eyes. She forced them back. "That is real strength," Ethan continued. "Not lifting heavy things or running fast. Real strength is being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. Do not let them make you forget that." After the call ended, Maya sat alone in her small room and cried. She cried for her brother who was sick. She cried for herself and the pain she carried. She cried because she was so tired and so alone and so far from everyone who loved her. Then she dried her eyes and went to sleep for the 2 hours Vorath's schedule allowed. The next morning brought something new. Vorath announced a tactical simulation, a team exercise where cadets would work together to solve complex military scenarios. Maya was assigned to a group with 5 other cadets, all species who had made their hatred of humans clear. The simulation will test your strategic thinking, Vorath explained. Each team must capture a defended position using limited resources. The team that succeeds fastest will earn honors. The team that fails will face additional training. Maya's team failed spectacularly, not because of her, but because her teammates refused to include her in their planning. They ignored her suggestions. They gave her useless assignments. They treated her like she did not exist. What none of them expected was that Maya would solve the scenario anyway. While her team argued about tactics, Maya had been studying the simulation parameters. She noticed patterns the others missed. She saw solutions they could not imagine. When the exercise began and everything went wrong, Maya moved on her own. She slipped through defenses the others thought impossible. She found angles of attack that did not exist in any galactic military doctrine. In the end, she captured the position alone, while her team was still trying to form a basic strategy. The simulation chamber fell silent. Vorath stared at Maya with an expression she could not read. The other cadets looked at her like she had grown a second head. "How did you do that?" one of her teammates demanded. "That approach is not in any tactical manual." "I know," Maya said simply. "That is why they did not defend against it." Vorath stepped forward. His eyes were cold and calculating. "Humans think differently," he said slowly. "Your pattern recognition operates outside standard parameters." "Interesting." That night, the midnight sessions grew worse. Vorath brought in combat training droids, machines designed to test reflexes and fighting ability. He set them to levels far above what any human should face. Maya fought until her body gave out, until she could not lift her arms, until she collapsed on the training room floor. And then he made her get up and fight again. "You are more dangerous than I thought," Vorath told her as she struggled to stand. "That strange brain of yours sees things it should not see, finds paths that should not exist." He leaned close, his breath hot against her face. "I will not allow a human to outperform my cadets. Whatever potential you have, I will crush it out of you." Days turned into weeks. The abuse escalated. Maya's body broke down and rebuilt itself, each time a little harder than before. She stopped feeling pain the way she used to. It became background noise, always present but no longer overwhelming. Dr. Venn, the Academy's medical officer, was a quiet Talaxian with 6 eyes and gentle hands. He treated Maya's injuries without comment at first, but as the visits increased, his silence became heavy with things unsaid. "These wounds are not consistent with standard training," he said one evening, applying healing gel to deep bruises across Maya's ribs. "I am clumsy," Maya replied. "You have 3 cracked ribs, tissue damage to both shoulders, and early signs of oxygen deprivation in your brain tissue." His 6 eyes focused on her face. "None of this is clumsiness. I cannot prove anything." "I can." Dr. Venn's voice dropped to a whisper. "I have been documenting everything. Dates, injuries, inconsistencies. When the time comes, there will be evidence." Maya looked at him for a long moment. "Why would you help me?" "Because I became a healer to protect people, not to watch them be destroyed." He finished his work and stepped back. "Hold on, Maya Chen. You are not as alone as you think." 2 days later, Vorath announced a special assessment. Live combat evaluation, he called it. Maya would face training droids in a simulated battle environment, with her performance determining her continued enrollment at the Academy. What he did not announce was that the droids would be set to lethal parameters. What he did not mention was that one of the evaluators would be Cadet Chorus, his personal protege and the most vicious student in the Academy. Maya entered the combat chamber, knowing something was wrong. The air felt different. The lights were too bright. The droids moved faster than they should, their training weapons replaced with something sharper. She fought anyway. She dodged and weaved and survived, using every trick her exhausted body could remember. She was doing well, better than Vorath expected, when everything changed. Chorus entered the chamber. He was Krellian like Vorath, young but already massive, with scales the color of dried blood and eyes that held no mercy. He wore training armor that was thicker than standard. His fists were wrapped in weighted gloves. "Realism training," he announced loud enough for the observers to hear. "A true warrior must face unexpected challenges." Then he attacked. The first blow caught Maya in the stomach and lifted her off her feet. The second slammed her into the ground. The third and fourth and fifth came too fast to count, each one driving pain through her body like fire. She tried to yield. She raised her hands and spoke the words of surrender, but Chorus did not stop. He kept hitting, kept hurting, his face twisted with hatred. Weak, he spat between blows. Pathetic, inferior. Maya curled into a ball and tried to protect her head. She felt ribs breaking. She tasted blood. The world was turning gray at the edges, consciousness slipping away. And then something happened. Deep inside Maya Chen, in a place she had never known existed, something ancient woke up. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was something older, something that had been sleeping in human blood since the first of her ancestors faced predators with nothing but stones and will. Instinct. And instinct did not know how to surrender. Maya Chen did not decide to fight back. Her body simply moved. One moment she was curled on the ground, absorbing blows from a creature twice her size. The next moment she was standing, and Chorus was screaming. She had broken his wrist. She did not remember doing it. Her hands had found the weak point in his grip, twisted at exactly the right angle, and the bone had snapped like a dry branch. It was not a technique she had been taught. It was not something she had practiced. It was pure instinct, millions of years of evolution compressed into a single perfect motion. Chorus stumbled backward, clutching his ruined hand. His eyes were wide with shock. He had never been hurt before. He was Krellian, born to a warrior species, trained since childhood to fight, and a small human girl had just broken him. You, he snarled, pain turning to rage. You will pay for that. He charged at her with his good hand raised. Maya's body moved again. She did not think. She did not plan. She simply reacted, and her reactions were faster than anything in the room could follow. She stepped inside his guard, too close for his longer arms to be useful. Her elbow struck his throat with precise force, enough to collapse his airway temporarily, but not enough to kill. As he choked and bent forward, her knee came up into his face, breaking his nose and sending him staggering backward. Two of Vorth's assistant instructors rushed into the chamber. They were trained warriors, veterans of actual combat. They moved with coordinated precision, flanking her from both sides. Maya saw them coming, not with her eyes but with something deeper, some sense that told her exactly where danger was and how to avoid it. She ducked under the first one's grab and used his momentum to throw him into the second. While they tangled together, she struck pressure points she should not have known about, targeting nerve clusters and vulnerable joints. Both instructors went down. One could not feel his legs. The other could not move his arms. Neither injury was permanent, but they would not be fighting again soon. The chamber had gone silent. Cadets watching from the observation deck pressed against the glass, unable to believe what they were seeing. Varath stood frozen at the control panel, his yellow eyes tracking the small human girl who had just dismantled 3 trained fighters in less than 10 seconds. Maya turned to face him. She did not look like a teenager anymore. She did not look frightened or tired or broken. Her eyes had changed, becoming cold and sharp, calculating threat and response with machine precision. Her body had changed too, every muscle tense and ready, every movement perfectly controlled. She looked like what she was, a predator. Varath tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Maya was on him, crossing the distance between them in a blur of motion. She grabbed his arm and twisted, forcing him against the wall. Her other hand found his throat, not squeezing but holding, letting him feel how easy it would be to close her fingers. "You hurt me," she said. Her voice was calm and flat, empty of the warmth that had defined her. "Every night for weeks. You tried to break me. You tried to kill me." Vorth could not speak. He could barely breathe. His scales had gone pale, the Krellian equivalent of turning white with fear. "I could kill you right now." Maya's fingers tightened slightly. "I could crush your throat before anyone could stop me. You know that, do not you?" He managed a tiny nod. "I want to." The words came out quiet, almost surprised. "Part of me really wants to. That part is very old and very strong, and it is telling me that you are a threat that needs to be eliminated." Behind her, more security officers had arrived. They stood at the chamber entrance with weapons drawn, but none of them moved. They could see what Maya was capable of. They did not want to find out what would happen if they tried to intervene. "But I am not going to kill you," Maya continued. "Do you know why?" Vorath managed a tiny shake of his head. "Because my mother taught me something your people have apparently forgotten. Being able to hurt someone is not the same as having the right to hurt them. Power without control is not strength. It is just violence." She released him. Vorath collapsed against the wall, gasping for air, clutching his throat where her fingers had pressed. He looked up at her with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Pure, undiluted terror. Maya stepped back, and suddenly the coldness drained out of her eyes, replaced by something lost and frightened. Her hands began to shake. Her legs trembled. The instinct that had taken over was fading, and she was just a 16-year-old girl again, standing in a room full of people she had just hurt. "I am sorry," she whispered, to no one in particular. "I did not mean to. I am so sorry." Then she walked to the corner of the room, sat down on the cold floor, and began to cry. The security team found her there 20 minutes later, after they had finally worked up the courage to enter. She did not resist when they took her into custody. She did not speak when they asked her questions. She just sat in the holding cell they put her in and stared at her hands like they belonged to someone else. 4 trained warriors were in the medical bay. Chorus had a broken wrist, a broken nose, and 2 cracked ribs. The assistant instructors had nerve damage that would require weeks of treatment. Vorath was physically unharmed, but could not stop shaking, and the recording of what happened was spreading through the academy like wildfire. Commandant Thesara watched it 17 times. The first few viewings were to understand what had occurred. The later viewings were to confirm what she could not believe. The human girl moved too fast. Her reactions were too precise. Her threat assessment was too perfect. Nothing in the Academy database could explain what Maya Chen had done in that chamber. "Get me Earth's ambassador," Thesara ordered. "Now!" Director Sarah Okonkwo arrived at the Academy within hours, traveling by priority shuttle from the diplomatic station. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray hair, carrying herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen everything and was surprised by nothing. Thesara showed her the recording without comment. Okonkwo watched it once. Her expression did not change. When it finished, she sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. "Well," she said, "I suppose this was inevitable." "You are not surprised." "I am surprised it took this long." Okonkwo turned to face the commandant. "How much do you know about human evolution, Thesara?" "I know you developed on a planet with unusual conditions. Higher gravity, denser atmosphere, active geology. That is the polite version." Okonkwo's voice was flat. "The truth is that Earth was a nightmare. Our ancestors survived by being the most adaptable, most persistent, most dangerous things on the planet. Everything wanted to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, sometimes even the water, and we survived anyway. Many species evolved under harsh conditions. True, but most of those species evolved specific advantages. Claws, scales, speed, strength. Humans evolved something different. We evolved the ability to adapt to any threat, to learn any skill, to push our bodies past any limit." Okonkwo leaned forward. "What you saw in that recording was not training. It was not skill. It was instinct, pure survival programming that has been refined over millions of years of constant danger." Thesara considered this. "You are saying every human is capable of what she did. Every human carries that potential. We spend our entire lives learning to suppress it. We have to. Can you imagine what our civilization would look like if everyone acted on those instincts? We would have destroyed ourselves long before we reached space. Then why did she lose control? Because you put her in a survival situation." Okonkwo's voice hardened. "You let your instructor abuse her for weeks. You pushed her to the breaking point. And when that boy started beating her, and she could not get away, her instincts took over. They decided she was going to die, and they refused to let that happen." The room fell silent. "She stopped," Thesara said finally. "She had Vorath at her mercy. She could have killed him. But she stopped." "Yes," Okonkwo's expression softened slightly. That is what makes us human. Not the instinct, the control, the choice to stop even when everything inside you is screaming to finish the threat. She paused. That girl is 16 years old. She was being beaten to death. And she still found the strength to show mercy. What do you want us to do with her? What do I want? Okonkwo stood, and for a moment, Thassara saw something ancient in the ambassador's eyes. The same coldness she had seen in Maya's face. The same predator looking out from human skin. I want you to understand what you almost did. You almost killed a child who had done nothing wrong. And if you had succeeded, you would have proven to every human in the galaxy that the compact cannot be trusted. We did not know. You did not want to know. Okonkwo walked toward the door. Now you do. The question is what you are going to do about it. She left without waiting for an answer. In her holding cell, Maya Chen sat with her knees pulled to her chest and wondered if she would ever feel normal again. Her hands had stopped shaking, but she could still feel it. The instinct, the predator. It was not gone. It was just sleeping, waiting for the next time it was needed. She had always known it was there. Every human knew, on some level. They felt it when they were frightened, when they were threatened, when someone they loved was in danger. That surge of strength and clarity that could make them do impossible things. But knowing about it and experiencing it were different. Maya had crossed a line she could not uncross. She had become something she did not fully understand. The cell door opened. Rin stood in the entrance, her silver skin pale with worry. I saw the recording, she said. Everyone has. Maya did not respond. You were magnificent. Rin stepped inside and sat next to her. And terrifying, but mostly magnificent. I hurt them. They were hurting you. They have been hurting you since you arrived. That does not make it right. Rin was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took Maya's hand. On my world, we have a saying. True warriors do not seek battle. True warriors seek peace and prepare for battle in case peace fails. She squeezed Maya's fingers. You did not seek this fight, Maya. You tried to surrender. You only fought back when there was no other choice. And even then, you showed mercy. I wanted to kill him, Maya whispered. When I had him against that wall, part of me really wanted to kill him. But you did not. But I wanted to. Rin lifted Maya's chin so their eyes met. Every warrior wants to kill their enemies. That is normal, natural. What separates the honorable from the monsters is the choice not to. Her voice was fierce with conviction. You made that choice, Maya Chen. Never forget that. When everything in you was screaming to finish him, you found the strength to stop. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength there is. Maya looked at her friend, at this alien who barely knew her, but somehow understood her better than anyone else in this place. What happens now? Maya asked. Now we find out if the compact is worthy of having humans among us. And if it is not, Rin smiled grimly, then I think your people will teach us to be better. The Galactic Compact's Emergency Council session began at dawn and lasted until the moons rose over Keth 4. Representatives from 30 species filled the great chamber, their voices rising and falling in endless debate. At the center of their discussion was a single question. What were they going to do about Maya Chen? Commandant Thassara stood before the council and presented the evidence. First came the recording of the combat incident, played on screens large enough for everyone to see. The representatives watched a small human girl dismantle trained warriors with movements too fast to track. They watched her pin a Krellian instructor against a wall with one hand. They watched her choose not to kill him. Then came Dr. Ven's documentation. 6 weeks of medical records showing systematic abuse disguised as training, broken bones, internal injuries, deliberate oxygen deprivation. The evidence was clear and damning. Instructor Vorath had not been training Maya Chen. He had been trying to destroy her. This is a disgrace, said the Valorian delegate, his voice sharp with anger. Our academy exists to create warriors, not to torture children. The human should not have been admitted in the first place, countered the Krellian representative. She is a danger to everyone around her. You saw what she did. Imagine if she had lost control completely. She did not lose control. Director Okonkwo stepped forward, her presence commanding immediate attention. That is the point you keep missing. What Maya did was the opposite of losing control. She assessed threats, neutralized them with minimal force, and stopped herself from killing when every instinct in her body was telling her to finish the fight. Minimal force? The Krellian laughed bitterly. 4 people are in medical care. 4 people who were actively trying to kill a teenage girl, and all of them will make full recoveries because Maya Chen, in the middle of what your own experts have called a primal survival response, still had enough control to avoid permanent damage. Okonkwo let that sink in. Can any of you claim your warriors would show such restraint? The chamber fell silent. A Talaxian representative rose. She was old, her 6 eyes clouded with age but sharp with intelligence. I have read the reports on human evolution, the death world hypothesis, the persistence hunting, the capacity for endurance and adaptation. But I confess I do not understand what I saw in that recording. The speed, the precision. How is this possible for a species without natural weapons? Okonkwo nodded, having expected this question. May I demonstrate something? Thisara gave her permission with a gesture. Okonkwo reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She tapped it, and a holographic display appeared above the council floor. It showed a simple timeline stretching back millions of years. Human beings evolved on a planet where we were not the strongest, fastest, or most dangerous creatures. We had no claws, no venom, no armor. What we had was our brains and our ability to adapt. She highlighted a section of the timeline. For most of our evolutionary history, we were prey. We spent hundreds of thousands of years being hunted by predators that could kill us easily in direct combat. The display changed, showing images of Earth's prehistoric megafauna. Giant cats with teeth like knives, massive bears that could crush bones with a single swipe, wolves that hunted in coordinated packs. We survived by being smart, by being social, and by developing a unique biological response to mortal danger. Humans call it the fight-or-flight response, but that name does not capture what it really is. Okonkwo paused. It is a complete override of normal biological limits, increased speed, increased strength, dramatically enhanced threat perception and response time, pain suppression, tunnel vision focused entirely on survival. You are describing adrenaline response, the Talaxian said. Many species have similar mechanisms. Similar, yes, but not the same. Okonkwo highlighted another section of the display. Human adrenaline response is uniquely powerful because we needed it to be. Our ancestors who could not trigger this response died. The ones who survived were the ones whose bodies could push furthest past normal limits when death was imminent. But what we saw in that recording, another delegate interrupted, was not just strength or speed. The human girl knew exactly where to strike. She targeted weaknesses in species she has never fought before. Yes, Okonkwo smiled grimly. That is the other part. Human threat assessment is unconscious and incredibly fast. We read body language, posture, balance, breathing patterns. We calculate attack angles and vulnerability points without conscious thought. It is how our ancestors survived being prey. They had to know in a fraction of a second whether a threat could be escaped or had to be fought. The chamber was completely silent now. Every representative was staring at the human ambassador with new understanding. So when Maya Chen was being beaten to death, Okonkwo continued, her survival instincts activated. Her body flooded with stress hormones. Her threat assessment went into overdrive. And she responded exactly as her ancestors would have responded when cornered by a predator. She became the most dangerous thing in the room. And yet she stopped, Thisara said softly. And yet she stopped. Okonkwo nodded. Because she is not just her instincts, she is a human being raised in a civilization that has spent thousands of years learning to control what we are. We teach our children from birth that violence is the last resort, that mercy is strength, that being able to hurt someone does not give you the right to hurt them. She let the holographic display fade. What you saw in that recording was not a monster. It was a child protecting herself using gifts she never asked for. And the fact that she stopped, that she apologized, that she cried afterward, that is what makes us human. We feel the predator inside us. We acknowledge it, and we choose every single day to be better than our instincts. The debate continued for hours after that, But the tone had changed. Representatives who had called for Maya's expulsion began asking different questions. Not how do we protect ourselves from humans, but why did we not know this about them? Not what should we do about this girl, but what has been done to her. Meanwhile, Maya sat in a visitor's room in the medical bay, finally allowed out of her holding cell. She was not alone. Rin was there, as she had been for the past 12 hours. And so was someone unexpected. Cadet Chorus. He looked different without his armor, smaller somehow, despite still being twice Maya's size. His broken wrist was wrapped in healing membrane. His nose had been reset but was still swollen and purple. He sat across from her with his head bowed, unable to meet her eyes. "I came to apologize," he said. His voice was rough, nothing like the confident snarl he had used in the combat chamber. Maya said nothing. She was not sure what to say. "What I did was wrong." Chorus finally looked up. "I told myself it was training. I told myself I was teaching you your place. But that was a lie. The truth is, I was afraid of you." "Afraid of me?" Maya could not hide her surprise. "I am half your size." "Yes, and you still outperformed Krellian cadets in tactical simulations. You survived training that should have killed you. You refused to break no matter what Vorath did." He shook his head slowly. "You made us look weak without even trying. And I hated you for it. So you decided to beat me to death. I decided to prove you were nothing special." Chorus's voice cracked. "Instead, you proved that I was nothing. A warrior who attacks someone who cannot fight back is not a warrior. He is a coward." The room fell silent. Rin watched the exchange with careful eyes, ready to intervene if needed. "What do you want from me?" Maya asked finally. "Nothing. I do not deserve anything from you." Chorus stood, moving slowly because of his injuries. "I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What you did to me in that chamber, you could have done worse. Much worse. I felt it when you had me on the ground. You were holding back even then." Maya remembered those moments. The instinct screaming to finish him. The control that kept her strikes precise and limited. "Why did you not kill me?" Chorus asked. "I was trying to kill you. No one would have blamed you." It was the same question Rin had asked, the same question everyone seemed to want an answer to. Maya thought about it carefully before responding. "My little brother is sick," she said, "really sick. Some days he cannot even get out of bed, but he never complains. He never gives up. He just keeps fighting, day after day, because he believes that is what strength means." She looked at Chorus directly. "Before I left Earth, he told me that real strength is not about hurting people. Real strength is being afraid and doing the right thing anyway." She paused. "When I had you on the ground, I was afraid. Part of me wanted to hurt you as badly as you had hurt me. But then I thought about Ethan. About what he would think if he saw me become a killer. So you stopped. So I stopped." Maya felt tears building, but held them back. "I do not want to be a monster, Chorus. I do not want to be the thing everyone is afraid of. I just want to be a person who makes her family proud." Chorus was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt before Maya Chen and bowed his head in the traditional Krellian gesture of deep respect. "Among my people, there is a concept called Vorkon," he said. "It means the warrior who chooses mercy. It is the highest honor a Krellian can achieve because it requires strength that most of us will never have." He looked up at her. "You have earned Vorkon, Maya Chen. Whatever happens next, whatever the council decides, remember that at least one Krellian knows your true worth." He stood and left without another word. Rin stared after him in amazement. "I did not think Krellians could bow to anyone. I did not think anyone here would ever respect me," Maya replied quietly. "You earn that respect, not by fighting, but by stopping." Rin moved to sit beside her. "The council has been in session all day. Word is spreading through the academy. Everyone is talking about what really happened, about what Vorath did to you. Does it matter? I still hurt people. You defended yourself against people who were trying to murder you." Rin's voice was firm. "That is not wrong, Maya. That is survival." A chime sounded. A message appeared on the room's display screen. The council had reached its decision. Maya Chen was ordered to appear before them immediately. Maya stood on shaking legs. Whatever happened next, she would face it the same way she had faced everything else at this academy, with her head up and her fear pushed down where no one could see it. Just like Ethan would want. The council chamber was vast and intimidating, designed to make anyone standing at its center feel small. Maya Chen walked to the speaker's platform alone, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Above her, representatives from 30 species watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to fear to something that might have been respect. Commandant Thesera spoke first. Cadet Maya Chen, you have been brought before this council to answer for the incident in Training Chamber 7. 4 individuals were injured by your actions. Do you understand the seriousness of these charges? Yes, Commandant. Before we proceed, do you wish to speak in your own defense? Maya had thought about this moment all night. She had considered what to say, how to explain, what arguments might save her. But in the end, she decided there was only one approach that felt right. The truth. I do not have a defense, she said. Not the way you mean. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Even Thesera looked surprised. I hurt people, Maya continued. I broke Cadet Chorus's wrist and his nose and his ribs. I injured 2 experienced instructors so badly they needed emergency medical care. I put my hands on Senior Instructor Vorath's throat and considered killing him. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. Those are facts. I cannot change them. Then what do you wish to say? Thesera asked. Maya took a deep breath. I want to tell you about my home, about my family, about why I came here and what I hope to achieve. No one objected, so she continued. I grew up in a small town on Earth called Cedar Falls. It is not a famous place. Nothing important ever happened there. But it is where I learned what it means to be human. She smiled slightly at the memory. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days, before humans had medicine or technology or safe places to live. She said our ancestors survived because they took care of each other. The strong protected the weak. The healthy cared for the sick. No one was left behind. She looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes without flinching. When I was chosen for this exchange program, I was honored. I thought it meant the galaxy was ready to accept humans as partners. I thought I could help build bridges between our peoples. Her voice wavered slightly but held firm. I did not expect to be hated. I did not expect to be hurt. And I did not expect to discover what I am capable of when I have no other choice. What are you capable of? The question came from a delegate she did not recognize. Truly? Maya considered the question carefully. I could have killed everyone in that training chamber. I knew it at the time, and I know it now. When my instincts took over, I saw every weakness, every vulnerability, every way to end each threat permanently. She held up her hands and looked at them. These hands could have done terrible things. They wanted to. Part of me, a part I never knew existed, wanted to destroy everything that had ever hurt me. The chamber was completely silent. But I did not. Maya lowered her hands. And that is what I want you to understand. Being dangerous is not the same as being evil. Having the power to hurt someone does not mean you have the right to hurt them. Humans learned this lesson a long time ago, after we nearly destroyed ourselves with the weapons we created. We learned that the measure of a person is not what they can do, but what they choose not to do. She turned to face Thesera directly. I do not ask you to forgive me. I do not ask you to trust me. I only ask you to understand that I made a choice in that chamber. When everything in me was screaming to kill, I chose to stop. I chose mercy, and I will make that same choice every time, no matter what it costs me, because that is who I want to be. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then the Talaxian delegate rose. I have a question, young human. You speak of choice and mercy and control, but what happens if someone pushes you past your breaking point again? What happens if your instincts take over and you cannot stop yourself? It was a fair question, one Maya had asked herself many times. I do not know, she admitted. I hope it never happens. I will train to make sure it never happens. But I cannot promise something I am not certain I can deliver. She straightened her shoulders. What I can promise is that I will always try, every day, for the rest of my life, because that is what my mother taught me. That is what my brother believes in, and that is what I believe too. The debate that followed lasted hours. Representatives argued about safety and precedent and the implications of admitting a potential threat into the academy. But something had shifted. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Curiosity, respect, even admiration. Finally, Commandant Tessara called for silence. We have heard testimony, we have reviewed evidence, we have debated at length. Her voice carried the weight of authority. Now we must decide. She turned to face Maya. Instructor Vorath has been stripped of his rank and removed from the academy. He will face formal charges for his treatment of you under the guise of training. The instructors who participated in your abuse will be disciplined accordingly. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Justice. Not for what she had done, but for what had been done to her. As for you, Cadet Chen, Tessara paused and the entire chamber held its breath. This council recognizes that your actions, while violent, were taken in self-defense against a coordinated attempt to harm you. You are cleared of all charges. Relief flooded through Maya so strongly she nearly collapsed. However, Tessara continued, we must also address the broader implications of what we have learned. The human capacity for combat has been dramatically underestimated by the Galactic Compact. This represents both a potential threat and a potential opportunity. She stepped down from her podium and walked toward Maya, stopping just a few feet away. Cadet Chen, you have shown us something remarkable. Not your fighting ability, but your restraint, your mercy. Your choice to stop when stopping was the hardest thing you could do. The Commandant's voice softened. The Academy exists to create warriors worthy of protecting our civilization. Today you have demonstrated that you already are one. She extended her hand in the human gesture of respect. Welcome to the Valorian Military Academy, Cadet Chen. Your real training begins now. 3 months later, Maya Chen walked across the training grounds with Rin at her side. The academy looked different now, or maybe she just saw it differently. The cold stone walls no longer felt like a prison. The stares from other cadets no longer carried only fear or contempt. Some still distrusted her, but others had come to respect what she represented. The new training schedule looks brutal, Rin commented, reviewing the data on her tablet. It looks fair, Maya replied. That is all I ever wanted. They passed a group of younger cadets practicing basic formations. Among them was a small Talaxian boy, thin and awkward, clearly struggling to keep up with his larger classmates. 2 older cadets had cornered him near the wall, their postures aggressive. Maya changed direction without thinking. Hey! One of the older cadets sneered as she approached. This is not your business, human. Maya did not raise her voice. She did not make threats. She simply stepped between the bullies and the younger cadet and stood there, small and quiet and absolutely immovable. It is my business now, she said calmly. The older cadets looked at each other. They had seen the recording. Everyone had seen the recording. They knew what this small human girl could do if pushed. They left without another word. The young Talaxian looked up at Maya with all 6 eyes wide with gratitude and awe. Are you not afraid of them? He asked. Maya smiled gently. It was the first genuine smile she had worn in months. I am afraid of what I would do if they did not leave, she admitted. But that is why I stand between them and you, so I never have to find out. She helped the young cadet to his feet and sent him back to his training group. Rin watched the whole exchange with a knowing expression. You are going to become a legend, you know, Rin said as they continued walking. The human who could kill anyone but chose not to. I do not want to be a legend, Maya replied. I just want to be someone my brother would be proud of. That night she called home. Ethan's face appeared on the screen. Thinner than before, but smiling. I heard what happened, he said. Everyone on Earth heard. You are famous. I got in trouble. You defended yourself against people trying to kill you, and then you showed them mercy. Ethan's eyes shone with pride. That is exactly what I knew you would do. I was so scared, Ethan. I am still scared. Of what I am. Of what I could become. Good. Her brother's voice was surprisingly firm. Being scared of what you could do is what keeps you from doing it. The day you stop being afraid is the day you become dangerous. Maya thought about that for a long time after the call ended. Her brother was 12 years old, sick and fragile, and yet somehow he understood things that adults missed. Strength was not about being unafraid. It was about feeling the fear and choosing kindness anyway. The next morning, Maya returned to training, real training this time, with instructors who challenged her fairly and peers who were beginning to see her as a colleague rather than a threat. It would take time to heal the wounds this place had given her. It would take longer to build the trust that had been broken. But Maya Chen had learned something important about herself. She was not just a survivor. She was not just a fighter. She was a protector, born and raised to stand between the weak and those who would harm them. That was what humans did. That was what humans had always done. And as word spread through the Galactic Compact, as more species learned what humans were truly capable of, something began to change. Not fear, though, that was there too. Understanding. The galaxy was finally beginning to see humans not as weak creatures from a gentle world, but as predators who had chosen to become guardians. It was not the lesson Maya had come to teach, but it was the one the galaxy needed to learn. And somewhere on Earth, a sick little boy smiled at the news reports and knew that his sister had kept her promise. She had made him proud.